I just needed that.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Contemporary Issues Adult Sunday School class. We are so pleased today to have Cindy Click with us, our Director of Youth at St. Andrew. Yay! And she brought 3 young people today. She brought Camden, Sophie, and Simon. We are looking forward to talking with them and tell us what teen life is like today. Many of us may have teenagers, grandkids, or others, but we don't often get to ask them, what exactly is school like, and what social media do you use, and what do you think of politics and religion today? So we're going to have a good discussion with them. We appreciate you all so much doing this. Before we start, though, I want to do our usual announcements. Zoomers, thank you for joining us. Please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen when you're not speaking, so we can keep the background noise down. We are recording this for future playback. We have a little device here called the Owl, which sits up front. It has a little microphone and camera in it that swivels, and so that's how we pick that up. And if for any reason we don't want to put this on YouTube, anybody tell me later on, and so we can always not do that. So a lot of folks like to watch these videos when they can't attend, so we do that. And then we have a Christmas party coming up December 12th. We just want to remind folks that attend here, you can just come, no RSVP necessary, enjoy some food and trivia and fun on the night of December 12th. Any other announcements? Anything? Okay, we want to leave plenty of time. I want to welcome any first-time visitors. I don't see any, but if you're here, welcome. And I'm Steve, the leader of the class, and we are glad to have you here. Okay. With that, I want to introduce Cindy and ask how many years Cindy has been here now. 20 plus, I know, Cindy, right?
Since 1998.
Since 98. Wow. Coming on a long time. Cindy's background is as a newspaper person. You've got a degree in journalism. A lot of us may not know that. And you were a newspaper reporter, Cindy. What did you cover?
A little town in Idaho called Blackfoot, which is in the corner between Idaho Falls and Pocatello, and then city and county news in Green Bay for a couple of years.
Great. You've got 2 reporters, ex-reporters here, myself too. So with that, I want to have Cindy tell us for just a couple minutes what all she does in the youth program here, and then she's going to turn it over to the young people, and we will ask them the questions. Yes, my wife Vicki has a question.
Pop in just for a minute. Did you make an announcement about the party?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm gonna pass around the sign-up sheet. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're gonna provide the meat and the dessert. So we have sign-ups for appetizers, vegetables, and salads, okay? And so I'm gonna pass that around.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, Cindy, just I'll give you the microphone. Just tell us a little overview of the whole program. What do you do? I know you could go on for quite a while about that.
Yeah, that's tough. Thanks for letting us come, and it's good to see lots of familiar faces. We still have some active volunteers in here who work with youth ministry, and we certainly depend a lot on the volunteers to help build relationships with teens. I'm gonna let the kids talk more about what they've experienced, but I guess some of the mainstays are Sunday programming. We have weekday, mostly breakfast groups, and we have a list of mission trips for next summer. Our goal is to give them a place that feels like home, where they can meet new friends, and certainly they get to know people from other schools. All 3 of these students up front attend different high schools, so I think it's a place for them to make friends beyond their school. But I'm going to tell a little social media story about Steve. I have a high school friend who, Facebook is a way to reconnect with people that you haven't seen often or for a long time. And I happened to look at a picture, and she's not had great luck in the love department, so she has a new relationship. So then I looked up this person and we had a mutual friend with her new boyfriend, and the mutual friend is Steve. So my high school friend is dating his childhood friend.
You never know. Facebook is good for that. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna give the microphone to Camden and then to Sophie and Simon, and just tell us where you go to school, what year in school you are, if you would.
Hello there, I'm Camden O'Hare. I am a junior at Heritage High School over in Littleton, Colorado.
I'm Sophie. I'm a sophomore at Thunder Ridge.
Under Rich.
I'm Simon. I'm a sophomore at Highlands Ranch High School.
Okay. Go ahead and just hold on to the microphone, and I'll go ahead and start with the questions. And then if anybody wants to jump in and follow on my question, go ahead. Just raise your hand and ask a question too. Camden, tell us what you like about school and you don't like about school. You got some favorite things?
I'm gonna start with the div flag.
Okay. And big voices too,
Mhm.
please.
Some of the things I don't like is our class periods are 90 minutes. So I'm in a class for a solid 90 minutes. So, and I have my classes every other day. So I have 2 lessons in one day. So it's kind of hard to do 2 lessons in one day. In terms of like homework and all that, I don't really have a lot of homework. They give us occasionally homework to do. Sometimes you can get it done in class, sometimes you can't. But my school provides me with an off hour a day, which is 90 minutes. So I get most of my homework done during my off hour. And so there are no complaints really with my school besides the class hours. I get to do all the fun, cool subjects I like to do, like AP classes or some business classes. So it's a really fun overall experience in my opinion.
Some of my likes for my school is like the availability of classes, especially in different subjects. Like you can take AP classes or college classes from nearby campuses, things like that. And yeah, I don't really like the 90-minute periods.
Where do you go, Sophie?
Thunder Ridge,
Thunder Ridge.
off Wildcat.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So I like the also availability of classes. We have like a really good engineering program. We have a bunch of other like classes that we can take. I'm trying to go down the AP route, so I do have quite a bit of homework, but it's manageable. Does have lots of extracurricular activities too, like I'm in TSA. Not really much I dislike, just like homework.
Okay. And Simon wants to be a mechanical engineer and Sophie wants to be a diplomat. International diplomat. And Camden is still thinking about what. He's got a lot of time to do that. What is life in school like today, Camden, with bullying and drugs, things like that? Are there those kind of pressures that bother you all and you have to face today, negative things?
I will say there's probably negative things that we face in terms of like bullying and how everything goes in school nowadays. At my school, usually you see in like some like High School Musical or like some movies, you see like social class systems, and those usually kind of lead to bullying. At my school, we don't really have social classes. Everyone is considered equal, fair. You're known for like maybe what you do. So like for me, I'm known for playing an instrument, doing golf and skiing. But there isn't really that much bullying. In terms of like bullying, I don't feel like the term bullying anymore is the appropriate word for like high school. It's almost pretty much, I would say at this point, almost kind of like stalking a little bit in terms of like, it's not really your name calling anyone. If you don't really like someone or you dislike them, you're kind of digging in on their personal life, finding things about it. So it's almost kind of like stalking. And I feel like that's the new way of bullying. But in terms of that, I don't really.
On social media?
Yeah, so like on social media in terms of like that, if it's an open account or even like the profile, you can do a lot of digging and searching and it's all there. And it's not like, it's kind of like a form of bullying, but it's the more major term I feel like most kids use compared to like normal bullying of like actually making fun of someone and just digging into their life and finding things. It's more of the new type of bullying in my opinion. But I'm gonna give the mic to these two to see what their opinions are.
Yeah, our experience with bullying at our school is kind of like Camden's. There's a lot less of the traditional bullying that you'll see in movies, and it tends to be more like in friend groups and that sort of stuff.
So if you bring the microphone really close, like an ice cream cone.
At our school, there aren't a lot of drugs, but vaping is definitely an issue, and that's pretty common.
Vaping? How about marijuana and drinking?
Not as much, but I know there is a lot more drinking and drugs at parties around the school.
At parties, okay.
Mhm.
Some things don't change.
I haven't really looking for drugs, but I do know there's vaping, but I don't know about like drinking and marijuana and stuff. But I agree.
Cigarette smoking popular among teenagers now or not so much?
I don't think I've ever seen a teenager smoking.
Never seen anybody smoking?
Well,
Wow.
not anybody, but like teenagers, at least in my school.
Uh-huh. Okay. Interesting.
One thing that.
I definitely agree that bullying is not as common. It'd just be like, ignored by other people if they don't like you, or just like teased. That's pretty much new bullying.
Interesting. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
How generally, what is your relationship with adults? Is it good or? I remember when I was your age, a lot of the adult attitude was children should be seen and not heard. For example, at a holiday like Thanksgiving, there'd be a separate table for the kids.
The kids' table.
So Jim's question was, what's your relationship with adults like these days? Are you close to adults or do you feel separated? Different generations?
Yeah, I feel pretty close to adults. Like my engineering teacher, I'm pretty close friends with, and he trusts me a lot. But, not really like separated that much, so.
I got a question. Jane, go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment about that, because when you travel and go to foreign countries, at least it has been our experience, that there's a close relationship between all the generations. Where here, we're kind of separated. Well, that's a group for this number of people this age. Then there's a group for this age, and then there's a group for that age. And so we don't have that good a connection. So that's why Jim was interested in that question. How is it just in your lives, not necessarily at your school, but outside of school? How do you relate to adults, or are you involved in many intergenerational things? We're very old, so we're thinking.
But that's a good question. Different cultures do it different ways. Eric, and then who's in the back? Joy. Okay, hang on, Joy. Go ahead, Eric.
I was interested, what do you consider the greatest challenge of people your generation? Your experience, from your experience. 5 words or less.
Probably social media, because even though many people believe it brings us closer, I think it can also polarize us and split people apart, especially relationships and things like that.
Social media.
Good point. We'll come back to that. Joy, go ahead.
I'd like to hear about racial diversity in your school.
Is there racial diversity in your schools?
I would say in terms of the division, there isn't really a big division anymore. Everyone is very open and inclusive, and you all are just, you're all treated the same. It's not really existed, I think, for at least maybe 15, 20 years. Now it's just kind of a thing that is just normal.
Are there minorities there?
Yes, there are, but again, they're just treated like normal people. And I think that maybe has to kind of do with the maybe social classes kind of dying off, and everyone has just kind of been treated kind of the same, or if they haven't necessarily been treated the same, it could just be a difference in opinions or something like that, but I would say that there isn't a division anymore.
On my question, can I hear from you, Camden, and also Simon, on the greatest challenges?
Mhm. Greatest challenges about,
The greatest challenge for people your generation?
I would have to say, it would be about just trying to live life. In terms of that, when COVID happened, we were all, in middle school, entering high school, some of us, even in elementary. And those were our childhood days where we could go make friends and live our lives. And some of us were locked in our houses and we couldn't make friends. And as we started to get back to society, we wanted to make friends. We wanted to explore more because we felt like we've lost time. We've lost the time with people and friends. And so now as teens, we're trying to get that back. We're trying to make more friendships. We're trying to travel places. And so you can kind of see that on social media as people maybe like post more about where they travel to or their friendships. Because at one time, at probably maybe a key moment in life when you should be going to make friends or you should be having fun, we were kind of isolated, and we're trying to get those friendships and experiences back.
I agree with what Cameron said, and like as expectations change, like different trends come and go, and what could be seen as acceptable changes from year to year. So you're constantly having to like follow the trends so you don't like stick out.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. Let's go back to social media for a second. I'll come back to you, Linda. What social media are you all on? Are you on Instagram primarily or what? And what do you think? Is that the main way you connect with each other?
I'm mainly just on like YouTube.
Okay,
And I just connect with my friends on like text messages, not really anything else.
text messages, okay.
I'm mainly on Snapchat and WhatsApp, but I try to limit it a lot. And I have other accounts, but I'm not on them a lot.
We have a hard time hearing you, I'm sorry.
I have Snapchat and WhatsApps. I have other ones, but I'm not on them a lot.
It's called WhatsApp. APP, WhatsApp.
Oh, what? So if you pretend you're yelling at your son.
For me, I would have to say, I use Instagram and Snapchat the most. I don't necessarily use it day to day, but in terms of like keeping up with friends, it's a great way to keep up with some friends that like maybe just see occasionally. But I would say most of my friends that I do hang out with or talk the most, we do just text each other mainly because it's a better form of communication.
Your restrictions at school on this now.
Yes, what's the restrictions at school on using your phones and social media?
So the restrictions when I first entered high school, you just couldn't have like use your phone in class unless the teacher said you could. And then this year, our school board put a new initiative where you can't have your phone on you at any time. So your phone is put when you walk into the classroom, you put it in a cubby. That's how they take attendance. And then it's just put, we call it the jail cells, but you leave your phone in the jail cell, and then you just do your normal classwork, and then when the bell rings, you pick it up, or if you forget, you come back and get it. But now we just don't have our phones in the classroom or use them.
I think in Douglas County, it's a county-wide, a school district-wide requirement. All the schools have to have phones in the jail cell. Sorry, go ahead, Sophie.
Yeah, we have a couple classes where you have to have them in the jail cells, but for our school, it's more based on what the teachers decide. I know I had a couple classes last year that allowed us to have them out the entire period as long as we weren't on them. Yeah, and I know there's a couple teachers that they're more of like the college teachers that come in to teach, but they don't care if we're on their phones as long as you get your work done and you're getting your test scores are good. Like they don't always care.
Okay. Excuse me, I wanted to ask her, you're interested in diplomacy, where is that gonna take you? Do you think into politics or?
I think into politics probably.
Alright, so some of my classes like have pockets that we can put our phones in, but not on occasion. So like during a test, you put your phones up, but other than that, not really. You can have your phone out sometimes. Just as long as you're not being disruptive, like what you said, like as long as you get good grades, they don't really care. As long as you're not cheating.
Linda, and then.
Yeah, I think question for Sophie, because you're interested in politics, and I'd like all three of you to answer, where do you get your international and national news?
I get my news from NPR Network.
That's good.
I don't really keep up to date on the news.
A real honest person.
I feel like Simon's a normal person, like, we don't usually follow, but for me, I use a variety of different sources. I know I have subscriptions to the New York Times, Washington Post. I also, then follow, my main news source I have, it's a kind of a new news source, it's called Morning Brew. It's, Morning Brew.
Like beer and coffee?
Like coffee. But I use that mainly. It's kind of it was built 2 years ago and it's kind of just a perspective on what usually younger people see. But I do have a variety of different news sources.
Who is behind all these new programs that you use? I mean, what companies or what power people are behind that?
So I know behind Morning Brew, the one that started 2 years ago, his name it's Morgan, I forget the last name. I think it's Morgan Dipley. Morgan it's from Nashville and he wanted his own news company. He had a journalism degree and he just started out of the blue and then he moved his company actually quite close to where we're located. He moved it to North Platte in not New Mexico, Nebraska, and runs out of there. So I think the new news sources that we see that aren't from like major broadcasts are just people who want their own view of maybe what the world is out there for people to see.
Ron had a question first,
Yeah.
then we'll come back.
One of the big differences between you guys and our generation, we had neither cell phones nor the internet. And I wonder now with your cell phone, when I came home from high school, between my part-time job up the street at the drugstore and all the homework I had to do, that kind of kept me pretty busy in the evenings. Now, do you find yourself getting bombarded with text messages and stuff in the evenings so that, quote, you can't leave school, the conversation just continues on all through the evening and in a way sort of disrupts your life away from school? Thoughts there?
Yes, I do think it does. I know a lot of people put their phones like on silent after they leave school or after a certain hour in the night or after dinner. So it's kind of like that's homework time, no more phones.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good, yeah.
good. So, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just know that in North Platte, it's in the middle of Nebraska, and Nebraska is very conservative. So do you hear both sides of the story on your Morning Brew?
Yeah, I do. In terms of like the spectrum that it falls on, it's not really on any side. It's more of just a view of how maybe people in like their 20s or 30s could view news. How they kind of do it is instead of releasing like a paper or an article on like Instagram, they have a short that they post, which is kind of just like a 1 minute video, and they just explain what's going on. So it's like kind of like if something's happening here, they'll explain both sides, and it's a nice little way instead of reading a big article that you can just hear it instead of reading it.
I want to ask the kids too, and I'll come back to you, Jim. What do you think about the presidential election that just happened? If you're comfortable telling us, because young people, of course, many are progressive liberals, idealists, but Donald Trump appealed to many young men, especially, and got a lot of their votes. So what do each of you think about Trump and Biden? If you would like to share with us your opinion.
Yeah.
Trump and Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
You can take the Fifth Amendment.
You can. That's if you like to, or you can say, I like Trump, or I don't like Trump, and I did like Harris, and something like that, just short is fine.
I think this election was particularly difficult because, like, neither candidate, and it's rare in most elections where a candidate is completely good, but neither candidate, in my view, was 100% good, and they both had their downsides. So even though, like, I didn't vote, I think I would have found it very difficult to vote in this one. Yeah, I would say me and most of my friends would have voted for Harris because she's more, she would have kept the waters a little bit cooler, I feel like. But I definitely see for people who voted for Trump or for Harris, like where they come from, I understand both sides.
Good answer.
You're on your way.
Yeah.
So I really have, like, didn't really favor one side or the other. I know my parents voted for Kamala, so it kind of naturally shifted what I felt. But didn't really have that many views on the election. Like, one person will win either.
Okay. That's fine. Very good. Yes.
What's the question again?
Would you have voted for Trump or Harris?
Okay. I know, for me, I have grown up in kind of like a divided house, divided friend group. I see all sides of the story. Personally, I would have not necessarily liked both of them in the terms of like when you have a president, both of them I don't think went through a fair primary process where you could pick who you think's the better candidate. The primary process I thought was a little flawed. Compared to like 2016 where you had so many candidates and then this year it was so limited. I just didn't like that. I am kind of bound not to say who I would vote for. Due to my job, I work for Douglas County Election Office, so I can't say who I would support. I have to be
Good for
neutral.
you, Canada. Jim Vandermiller.
Very interested in your feelings and your friends' feelings about the physical world which you will inherit from us. And whether there is an emotional component to, whether you're angry at us for leaving the world that we're in.
Are you worried about global warming? What is your feeling about the environment?
Personally, I think you can't leave anything not 100%. So I will never be mad what has been handed down to us. I believe that what gets handed down to us, we can make what we can make out of it. And so in terms of like global warming, I do think that yes, that is a factor, but over time, we have to grow and adapt with it and fix some things. So I know I wouldn't ever be mad what's like handed down. I don't blame, quote unquote, your generation. I think that it's just what is in the moment, but
I think it's more of like what you make out of it. Uh, like, like you said, there's no 100% world. With each generation, it tends to get a little bit less. And I think there's things we could do to bring that up, but it's more about what you do with what you have.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried about global warming because it has been going up, but I've also noticed that temperatures have been going up and down. So might be a such an increase, but I think we're bringing it back down. So we're just preparing what has been given to us, and we're making progress.
You three seem to be really well put together kids. When things fall apart with your friends, hypothetically, where do you go or where do you encourage your friends to go to sort it out?
Like, what do you mean?
I'm thinking, couch it as mental health services, but I didn't want to be that specific. And when kids, you hear something about somebody who really is pretty off the cliff, ready to whatever, where would they go? What's available in your school, the church, whatever?
So we have like Safe to Tell, which is like a phone number you can call if someone is like feeling like suicidal or just depressed, and they will talk. It's anonymous, and they will talk to the person.
How do kids know about that?
There are posters at their school, and they are like meet like a assembly about telling us like that's where we can go.
Yeah, I know there's there's a couple mental health groups here at the church. There's some at the schools, and I know each school has guidance counselors that you can talk to, and like you said, the Safe to Tell and the 988 suicide hotline. But I know for a lot of kids, who they go to is just their friends, because many may be scared of telling an adult. I know some people who maybe, so it's a lot of friend counseling too. Yeah.
I will say for me, I've had a couple experiences with my friends. I know one of the big concerns about going to some of these places is a lot of the times like Safe to Tell, it's anonymous, like someone like can report you or something like that. And sometimes the cops come. So in some situations like that, I know that they're just like afraid if the cops come or anything like that. So in terms of like places to go, I know that even schools, counselors are a great way to go talk to. They'll help you down the road. There's other organizations, and I know that like both our youth directors downstairs, you can both turn and talk to. But in terms of just how to help, it's just different organizations.
Do you have a peer counseling group where the kids help each other? A formal, kind of a formal organization?
There's not really like a formal, there's kind of like a disformal in a sense of like your closest friends are kind of like your advisors or something like that. They're around you, they see you most of the time, so they kind of have some recommendations for you, but a lot of the times you can't really control their actions, so you give them advice, but you always try to make sure that since they're your friend, that you try to get them the right support, the right mindset, so they can be who you knew them as or know them as.
Esther.
I have a son who's an eighth grade teacher, and this year and last year, for the first time, he had students when they're doing their writings, part of their research with AI. I'm just wondering if you use those sources, and if so, how much, or does it depend what the subject is on that?
Yeah. Do you use artificial intelligence? If so, how?
Think about first one.
I know,
Artificial.
I know a lot of people use it in their essays, but my English and history teachers last year actually encouraged us to use them, not for like
Really?
turning stuff in, but for research and making things simpler. I know I definitely use it. I work under a Colorado representative, and when we're doing research, that can help like sort out some information. So it can be helpful when used in the right context.
And I sometimes use AI, not like for research as well, but I have to fact check the information because it can take false information from all over the web. But our English teacher as well also says that we can use it to make like difficult reading books that are above our grade level. They can actually make them easier to read and use less advanced vocabulary. But he makes sure that we don't cheat on our essays with AI by making it write them for it.
I know that for me, just like my teachers, they kind of encourage AI, but they don't encourage the abuse of it in terms of like writing papers like we do in English. We actually have this new thing that the district put in place where you have to handwrite all your essays, and so we're back to handwriting all of our essays. So we don't have to use AI. But in terms of like using AI, my AP government teacher recommends we use this one website, and I forget it. It's like Class AI, and what it does is he lets you record his voice for his lectures, and it records his voice for the lectures, and then it then spits out some flashcards over some like test questions, and then it puts to us after that like practice tests. So then that way, before you walk into the test, you can be prepared. You already know what's probably going to be on the test based off of what your teacher said, so you can practice with those flashcards or with the test. And in terms of AI abuse, our school definitely used tons of websites like AI checkers and turnitin.com, which make sure that your essay was written by you.
They still use turnitin.com.
Yep.
So there's ways the teachers can check if you're cheating using AI.
Yeah, they can, in terms of like AI, even some teachers use AI, like turnitin.com, they use AI to see if it was a form of AI. And some forms of AI are untraceable, but those ones are really rare, and those are actually on your phones.
Thank you. The reason I asked this is last week, the kids turned in a paper, and out of 150 kids, 10 kids took it off of AI, and it was plagiarism, and so now they're thinking about going back to the handwriting. You have to write it. Thank you.
And I will also say too, on our computers that we get for school, they have browsers to block some websites, so they block all the AI websites so you can't use them.
Okay, we're gonna take one question back here, and then I'm gonna ask our Zoomers if they would like to ask a question so they don't feel like they're intruding. So think on it, Zoomers.
I'm assuming that because you are here and involved in the youth group, that you are choosing to be followers of Christ. What kind of peer pressure do you run into at school when you try to do that?
I personally don't have a lot of peer pressure. My friend group is very diverse. We have people from all cultures and religions, and even people who have no religion at all. And I think we're all very respectful of each other. There's, not a lot of peer pressure. Like there's still a little bit of discrimination depending on religion, but it's mostly like just free, whatever you want.
With my friend group, we don't really ever talk about religion. We don't like fight over religion or try to pressure each other to follow each other's religions. So very diverse, but we never really talk about it.
In terms of like religion, I go here because I like the message of God and Christ and all that. In terms of like conversation, how it comes up with friends, most of my friends grew up going to church and they kind of still do. But in terms of like actual religion, some people kind of like use it as a joke, but they don't necessarily use it as a joke in terms of like jokes. It's like if you do this, you're going to heaven, or if you do that, you're going somewhere else. So they use it as a joke in terms of that. But in other like standards, I don't feel like religion comes up that much. I will say some of my friends they didn't know I was a Christian, and then when I told them, oh yeah, sorry, I won't be at this event, I have a youth retreat, they're like, wait, you're a Christian? So
Okay, Zoomers, anybody on Zoom have a question or a comment for the young people?
Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Doug.
First, I want to congratulate you guys for coming out. I know sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, but I think you're doing an outstanding job. Both what I see of you doing in church plus outside. But overall perspective, do you feel that you guys can make a difference in the world, and how?
I feel like we can make a difference in the world. In terms of like making a difference in the world, a lot of people don't know where to start, and they think of like they see big creators or like celebrities and they feel like they have to be that celebrity, when you could start somewhere little and then just get a like name started, and eventually it starts to grow. It takes time, but in terms, I think you can make a difference. In terms, I'm also a Boy Scout like Simon, and I feel like I make a big difference in terms of like activities or choices that we do there. And eventually it's like a domino reaction where you slowly let it go and eventually it will make up. Some people don't think they can make a difference, but eventually you will make a difference.
Yeah, I think you definitely can make a difference, but it's all about the grassroots. So starting or creating a club or joining one, or making a political group or joining one. But it starts low, even the tiny things. It depends on what kind of difference you want to make. If you want to make a difference in individual people's lives, like you can do community service and like help one-on-one, or bigger changes like legislation and things like that. You can work under politicians and things like that. So I think it's definitely not the word. You're able to do it.
I think I can make a difference because I am in engineering, and I'm hoping I can like make some things that can help with automate things or just incorporate more engineering things into our everyday lives. Like make tools that can help make things easier.
Yeah.
Would you explain the tools hanging on your?
These are from outings.
Oh.
These, every single one of these is from an outing. Like this one's like a 71-mile bike ride.
Oh, wow.
This one's from like an Easter volunteering. This one is from an NYL or IYLT New Scout outing, where we helped younger scouts learn. And then I recently got one from going on a mystery trip that was last weekend. We went to NORAD.
Simon, do you want to explain why you're in uniform today?
Oh, I'm getting my Eagle project approved. I just got the first signature today, so I hope.
What is it?
We're gonna be fixing the fire pit out in the, like on the back side. We'll be leveling the flagstones along with relaying laying a new path out of flagstones to the fire pits.
Very good, congratulations. Susan on Zoom has a question. You got your hand up, I believe, Susan. Go ahead.
Yep. So we touched just briefly on the youth vote, and I'm questioning how to activate the youth vote going forward, particularly for the next presidential, and if the panelists have any thoughts about that.
How to activate the youth vote, encourage them, energize the youth vote for the next election. What could we do to energize you all for the next election?
Gotta wait till they hit 18 to start.
What kind of candidates could promise what that would be interesting to you for the future? Taking care of the earth or civil rights, or what would be turn you out to vote?
Definitely like taking care of the earth. But like more healthcare provided by the government.
Okay, what do you think, Sophie?
I think politicians that advocate for, like, since our generation is younger, especially like the freshmen incoming, they'll be going off to college during the next election, and I think they're going to be very interested in more education benefits and like housing and things like that that will directly affect their lives.
In terms of like trying to get like the youth vote out or like young adults vote, I think right now it's probably going to stay consistent at what it is. I feel like the only way that you can get the youth vote out is just talking with them and like just seeing their perspective on life and the world. But in terms of it, I think the youth vote is probably going to stay consistent. So as we get older, I think it's probably going to stay the same rate. I don't think you can get I think you can get a little bit more out of us as more of us start to get older. But in terms of it, I think getting the youth vote out, I think it's staying the same, and it just depends on what's going on in the world or what's happened.
Okay, Linda, and then I'll come back to Jim and then to Keith. Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, do your high schools offer, I guess you call it vocational training for those folks who do not want to go to college or cannot afford to go to college, and would perhaps be better off in like a trade, whether plumbers or electricians?
Our school district just last year opened a building called EPIC, and EPIC works with trades or people who don't want to go to college, and it basically gives you hands-on like life experiences. They have classes from business, welding. It's almost basically like home ec, but more advanced, more classes. Our school district also works with Arapahoe Community College to offer some community classes in our school or at their campus. And so I will say our school district is adding more of those classes or more of those pathways.
Our school definitely is too. We have multiple construction, welding, and more advanced classes for people who do not want to go to college or cannot afford it.
I don't really look for those type of things. I don't think our school has those, but I'm also just hard set on going to a college, hopefully the school minds, so I haven't really noticed.
We've got about 10 minutes left. Jim and then Keith.
I'd like you to comment first, please, on your thoughts about separation of church and state. And then I would suggest as soon as you're able, join a political party. So, and go to their meetings. They have monthly meetings. Just keep up with what they're up to.
Jim asked you, agree with separation of church and state in America? It's okay. That's all right.
I think it should stay separate. The Establishment Clause was created for a reason, and it should stay like that.
In terms of it, I do think that it was designed to be separate, and kind of nowadays it kind of is still separate. There's a little push, but I think if you leave it separate, it just leaves the people more with a voice.
If you're doing some thinking about it, to make a decision, look at the history in Europe of the religious wars, centuries of religious wars. So separation of church and state forever.
Jim says, look at the history in Europe and you'll see why there's separation of church and state in America. Keith, go ahead.
How does dating work nowadays?
How does dating work for teenagers?
You start dating somebody and you went steady. There's a lot of couples, and a lot of them end up getting married, whatever. How does it work nowadays?
I don't even know where to begin. I can just tell you, usually it's the same process of like kind of meeting someone, but nowadays, it's kind of just like, I'm not sure if you've heard of a quote unquote talking stage where it's just like you text someone occasionally or like you hang out occasionally. And I feel like it's more, dating is more of like kind of like not an online form, but more texting.
Yeah, the girl's perspective, Sophie.
Diplomatic.
I think it definitely is like that. The creation of social media has definitely made it easier to get to know people, especially in like groups at your school. You can add someone on social media and decide to meet or hang out a lot easier, but a lot of relationships don't last. There's a couple that like for each school that last a couple years, but most of them, like the average I'd say is probably about 3 or 4 months. So it's not very long.
I agree with that. Most relationships don't last very long. But definitely think like being able to add someone on Snapchat or just texting someone makes hanging out a lot easier. And it's pretty much the same, but with instead of less talking in person and more texting, sometimes calling, but mainly texting.
If someone is gay in school and out, are they accepted or are they bullied? Most schools.
Some like it's kind of like split sometimes, depends on the person. At least with our school, like sometimes someone will get bullied for being gay, but most of the time they're accepted.
Good. Good. How about your school, Sophie?
I'd say it's mostly accepted in just about all friend groups. So
good.
I would say everyone is accepted no matter what, and I feel like it's just their close friends that tease them about it as like a joke. And that's kind of, I think maybe the use humor is if you know someone, you kind of just like tease them about like your identity. That's like if you're close friends, but I feel like at least at my school, everyone accepts everyone for who they are.
That's great. Go ahead.
What percentage of the student population do you think is on the LGBT spectrum? You know, that there's some form of, whether it's gay, trans, non-binary, you know, what percentage of kids are that way versus not?
What percentage are on the LGBT spectrum? Yes.
It's kind of a hard answer because you don't know exactly if people are out or if people know things, but I would say in terms of like percentage wise, it's close to around 20 to 30%.
That high?
Yes. You all feel that same?
Yeah.
I would say probably a little bit lower, but that might be because my school's pretty big.
I agree with like the 20-30%.
And that's on like some like just guessing levels. It's probably a tad bit lower, but
Yeah, it's hard to get it accurate.
Do friends talk openly about their sexual identity, their gender questions, if they're questioning themselves? Do they talk openly with each other?
Varies on person to person, but I think generally not. They just keep it to themselves, or like close friend groups where they can trust, like they won't like get out. I mean, if they feel embarrassed about it.
Yeah, that's kind of how our school is. I know my friend group talks about it more, but I know most other friend groups at our school don't. It's more on a person-to-person basis.
I agree with that, the person to person basis, kind of just like that. That's normally how it goes because most people just don't like to be labeled as something that can put them higher or above people in terms of that. I know that most people at my school who are like that, they don't prefer that just to like tell people because they know that a label will be put on them that they just don't want to carry with them.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Can you guesstimate the percentage of minority students that you have in your school? And also, if you have many minority teachers and just guesstimate the percentage?
In terms of minorities, I don't know the percentage number. I would probably say it's 15 to 35% in terms of that, like broad, mainly because I'm in like certain classes where like you have to pick them. So in terms of that, there aren't like a lot of kids who like pick those classes, but it's a low number. I think it just has to do with the area we live in. And in terms of teachers, I will say around 25% of them are a minority.
I would say for students, it's probably around like 15 to 25%. For teachers, I'm not sure, but I'd say definitely less.
Yeah, like 15-20% of students and like 10-15% of teachers. I mean, our principal, Dr. Page, is also a minority.
We've got about 3 minutes left. Jane.
I just wanted to know what the enrollment is at each of the schools. How big?
Enrollment number.
Huh.
No.
No.
Size of your.
It's okay if you don't know.
At your school, or,
Well, our school times were in high school,
Okay.
but I don't really know the numbers.
Our school is about 1,800 kids, and I believe our grade is between 400 and 500 students.
Background for my school, most of our kids are open enrolled. We're in Littleton Public Schools. Most of them come from Douglas County. And it's around 2,000 kids, 500 in each grade.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you guys ever get a sense, or fear of being canceled? I mean, if you say something politically or something that you don't think your friend, whether it's the gay thing or not, do you ever feel like you would be shunned or canceled from, communicating? I don't know if I'm saying that. Right?
Yeah. Do you
You understand what I'm
feel
saying?
prohibited from saying your opinions because you'll be shunned or canceled by people?
I feel like a lot of people that's the case. But personally for me, I have a warming friends and family, so I don't have that fear. But I feel like a lot of people kind of do have that fear in the sense of what their background is.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have that fear. A lot of things, especially politics and gender and that sort of stuff, aren't really talked about openly unless in certain classes like government, and things like that.
Yeah, pretty similar. Like my friend groups won't like cancel me or anything. I also don't like share my opinion online. So, but we don't really talk about those type of subjects at school or we'll really share them at all.
We're out of time. It's 11:30. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Cindy, for bringing them. You're articulate and wonderful young people. Thank you. Okay, we hope to see you next week. Ron Penny's going to present a book review in our class. So thanks for coming, everybody. Bye-bye.
It's actually a subject of evolution and emergence of life.
I didn't want to ask this. You still voted for all these about that.